The mic stand? Yeah.
I'm going to have to use my index cards because I'm not quite as good at remembering things as the other speakers. And if I didn't, I'd probably rant on for like longer than 10 o'clock. So thank you, Maxine. My name is David Garrow. It is a pleasure to be here, and I thank you all for welcoming me here. And I just wanted to quickly say thank you to the Algonquin Nation for welcoming us and providing a safe passage on their unceded territory. Obviously, as you can tell, our theme is on community. The moment that defined the idea of community for me happened when I opened a classroom door when I was 12 years old. But to make sense of that moment, I must provide a bit of my family background. My mom was born and raised in a small First Nation called Sagamok. She grew up with 9 sisters and 3 brothers. The kids grew up collecting berries and working with the garden. My mom's job was walking a few kilometers every day with a pail to get water for the family from the local well. This is a great example of the incredible work ethic we all know my mom to have through her education and government career. My father was born in Akwesasne, raised in Akwesasne in Buffalo, New York, with his 3 brothers. He developed his lifelong sense of morals and ethics serving the United States Air Force. He would go on to work in Indigenous affairs and consulting. They met in 1969 here in Ottawa. Together they raised 5 boys. I am the youngest. I'll just pause here and let all the collective parents collectively moan, "Oh, that poor mother." That ancestry makes my brothers and I Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe. In English, that's Mohawk and Ojibwe, or Ojibwok, as you can see on my shirt, and as we amusingly like to say. My parents lived in various parts of Ontario, but most of us were raised in Peterborough. As you know, Peterborough was a very Catholic and Caucasian city. I grew up knowing my family was proudly Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe, but I knew we were different from everyone else. And we did face some discrimination, like everywhere. But for the most part, we were welcome there. We still have lifelong friends in Peterborough, and we try to return as much as possible. As you can see, there were a lot of elements in my life shaping my sense of community. My mom and dad's different First Nations, the Canadian and American cultures that surrounded them, my dad's military background, and Ontario's small city life. But I never really thought about the notion of community until that day we moved to Ottawa, and I first opened my first classroom door at Fisher Park Junior High, just over on Holland Avenue. All my life, I had been that one non-Caucasian in my Peterborough classroom. At Fisher, I encountered my first culture shock, if you will. I suddenly found myself in a mini UN. My classmates were Canadians with ancestry from Vietnam, Somalia, Japan, England, France, Nigeria, China, Jamaica, and Kuwait. And I could still see all their beautiful faces when I first opened that door. And what we had in common was that we all had great-grandparents, grandparents, and parents that persevered, who decided that they were going to make their lives here. At some point, 20, 10, or 50 years ago, someone had chosen to leave their home and move to a place where their kid could have a better future than they had. They weren't born into community, they chose one. You don't have to inherit your community, you can build it. That experience defined my sense of community, and to a large degree, my life. Currently, I work for one of Canada's leading Indigenous consulting firms, Envision Insight Group. I love working there because we've chosen specifically to work with and for Indigenous peoples and communities. We recently launched a series of Indigenous culture awareness courses for companies, departments, students, and just individuals who want to understand what reconciliation really means. My latest passion is volunteering. As an ambassador and mentor for a group called Apathy is Boring. It's a youth-led organization that works to educate and support young people to be active citizens in their community. The RISE program that I'm a part of just recently conducted 3 social inclusion workshops throughout Ottawa just this past spring. It's completely youth-led, and again, the message we're driving home is the same. You don't inherit your community, you create it. I'm still learning from and building my community, and hopefully that process will never stop. My Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe roots are a huge part of who I am, and I'll always probably nurture that part of myself. But I've also chosen to define myself as part of a larger community, one that accepts people regardless of their skin color, politics, religion, gender, age, sexuality, or all those other borders that separate us from them. Community is wherever our neighbors, friends, and family are. We seem to be at a defining moment with a lot of powerful voices in the wind, looking to divide us and turn us against each other to take away our connection to community. And for those people who believe that we're born and locked into one group, that can be a seductive message. But to the voices that would push us back behind our walls, I say, not on my watch. I will not choose fear. Instead, I choose forgiveness. I will not choose anger. Instead, I choose laughter and love. And I will not choose to live within the boundaries someone else chooses to define as a way to exclude others from our community. The community I choose is going right into that Fisher Park classroom and embracing what's there. I choose my yearly Secret Santa parties with my friends from junior high. I choose storytelling with my friends and family at get-togethers throughout all the city and back in our communities. I choose the awesomeness of a St. Patrick's Day party hosted by 3 Canadian brothers from Nigeria here in the south end of Ottawa. I choose my niece's naming ceremony in Nepean. I choose that learning from volunteering that apathy is in fact boring. I choose listening to our elders, whether they're from Akwesasne, Renfrew, or Somalia. I choose having a coffee and a handshake with someone with opposing views rather than a social media argument. I choose the community that gives an Ojibhawk voice, a voice to speak out. I choose sharing whatever version of this land we so make it to be. And lastly, I choose to build community. What type of community do you choose? Miigwech, and thank you.